Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, Age of Empires 2, The Conquerors, Red Dead Redemption, Undead Nightmare, Elder Scrolls 3, Blood Moon, Monster Hunter World Iceborne. What do all these games have in common? They're all expansion packs, a product largely from a bygone era. And that's what has me so surprised about Iceborne. This is a full-on expansion pack in every sense of the word. It adds a huge amount of challenges, monsters, equipment, and even some chicken nugget looking weapons into the game. Oh, here they are. Look at those things. God, they're so ugly though. It has totally surprised me, and to be honest, it's sort of reinvigorated that love that I had for Monster Hunter. In this video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what some of my favorite new features are for the game and maybe touch upon some of the things I'd still like to see changed. I haven't seen the credits roll as of right now, so take all this with a grain of salt. This isn't really a full-fledged review, but just a somewhat detached fan talking about his experience with the game so far. Iceborne, of course, has Master Rank this time around, the G Rank equivalent. It's not unprecedented for Monster Hunter to have an expansion with G Rank. We've sort of already experienced that with Tri and 3U, as well as 4 and 4U or 4G. But after my lukewarm reception of World and its endgame, it didn't really live up to my expectations. It's really refreshing to see Iceborne get right to the point so we can start fighting new and interesting monsters and using new strategies. From the moment you install Iceborne, you're almost immediately thrust into this new and beautiful icy map called the Hoarfrost Reach. And then you'll come across the first couple of monsters, including Beatotus and Bonbro. And I'm not gonna lie, I immediately died to Beatotus because I was cocky and I wanted to wear my obsolete fashion armor. This isn't a joke or an easy ride by any means. This is Master Rank. We're not playing around here. I really like both Beatotus and Bonbro. Beatotus is very similar to a Juratotus, but he's in the ice, obviously. He has a much more diverse moveset, it feels like, and very, very easily inflicts Ice Blade, so you gotta pack those Nullberries. Bonbro is also a really cool creature. I initially thought he would sort of be like a Duramboros, but that's not the case at all. I'd say he's more like a Baroth if anything, but one of his signature attacks is really awesome. He'll pick up a tree and swing it around or charge towards you, which, yeah, it does a lot of damage. The returning monsters are done really well too. I love how thick Tigrex is. You can tell just by looking at him that he's simply a massive muscle. And not gonna lie, it's really intimidating. Dude, what? I think my favorite monster to fight, so far at least, is Brachydios. It was probably a combination of its introduction, the hype, and the music that just made the entire fight seem too perfect. There he is, the king. Best monster in the world. Hell yeah. It was so much fun. His armor is super cool too, but unfortunately his weapons don't share the same love. I know that there's this whole chicken nugget debacle for his dual blades going on right now, and yeah, I could see the comparison, and it's very disappointing. It's not just the dual blades though. There are copy-pasted elements from every weapon weapon tree, and it's the most frustrating thing ever. See, the badass weapons are a huge motivator to upgrade or experiment with, but these things here? Like, look at this. Come on, Capcom, you can do better than this. Back to the monsters though, there are a number of subspecies that were added as well, but to be honest, and I've always felt this way, I don't really think subspecies add a whole lot to the experience in Iceborne or in any previous Monster Hunter game. It might be kind of cool seeing a poisonous Tobikadashi for the first time, but the fights feel so similar enough to the regular variants that, it just doesn't add a whole lot for me. I see them mainly as a way to add in more elements to the pool of monsters, which I guess is drastically needed in the case of Monster Hunter World. I will say though that Nightshade Palumu is definitely a problem, not in a good way. You'll be fighting it and it will just plop a huge cloud of sleep gas down multiple times right in front of you. So then you're stuck waiting 15 seconds while it goes and dwaddles around and you're trying to wake up. So you gotta make sure to bring a ton of energy drinks for Nightshade Palumu. And it also has a penchant for staying off the ground, which means it's a pain in the ass to hit with melee weapons. Sure, you could use flash pods or the clutch claw to get to it, but you don't have a lot of options here. This was definitely one of my least favorite fights. By far, the best new feature in combat is the Clutch Claw, a miniature grappling hook that you could use to grapple onto your target. By grappling on, you could either target a specific body part, or if you latch onto a monster's head and press R2, you'll do something called a flinch shot, aka fire everything loaded into your slinger into the monster's face. If a monster isn't enraged, it'll charge forward and hopefully smash itself into a wall, toppling it over. Man, the flinch shot is so satisfying to pull off. It's worth it in terms of damage, but it's also really risky because the monster can throw you off, and, tables can be reversed very quickly in Iceborne. I love these risk versus reward scenarios, but the extra several hundred damage and the potential to topple the monster is a great incentive. Using the Clutch Claw also lets you wound the monster's body part, letting you do more damage to it. So, if you grapple onto a Nargacuga's tail, for example, and you attack it, you can inflict damage specifically to that body part. Do that enough times and the tail will be wounded, letting you and your team deal extra damage to the tail. If you're using a lightweight weapon like the dual blade, the monster will also drop an item for your slinger, which, you could just use that to repeat the process of clutch clawing onto the monster. One new feature that I really like is decorations with multiple skills. For something that seems relatively minor, it really is satisfying to slot in multiple skills so easily, and it makes it much simpler to come up with new and interesting builds. For example, I have a few 4-slot decorations so far that have combinations like Satiated and Expert, Gobbler and Expert, Slider and Attack. Combine this along with all the new Master Rank armor sets, and you have an opportunity to really experiment with your builds and feel a sense of character progression. So the combat is great and all, but I think the quality of life changes that you see when you're not in combat are really what make Iceborne worth playing. Let's take a look at Celiana, for example, which is the new town and hub. Rather than a huge, sprawling base with multiple levels and staircases that take 30 seconds to traverse, Celiana is compact and a concise town with everything you need at an arm's reach. This is how Astera should have been from the get-go, honestly. And the gathering hub in Celiana is even better, as you could access everything there, including the blacksmith and even the provisions guy. There's actually a reason to go there after hunts, and you can even play with your cat in the water. There's also this Steam Engine minigame that gives you free items and a funny cinematic once the engine is all powered up. The rare tickets that you get from the Steam game can actually be traded in for really rare items too, so it's just a fun little mini game that doesn't really affect anything, but you get a ton of benefits from it. Iceborne fixes a lot, but it doesn't fix everything. Those damn footprint tracking quests are back, and they just take any steam and momentum out of your gameplay. I already went over how awful Nightshade Palumo is, but trust me, there are a couple of other monsters and subspecies that really just don't hit the mark for me. The story is also really uninspired, and none of the characters have names still. And the handler is still invasive and always getting into trouble. I understand that Capcom put a lot of effort into the story and all that, but a lot of these scenes just don't do anything for me. I really wish we were able to skip cutscenes because some of them are quite long, with just not much happening. There may be some issues that I have with the game in the future that I haven't encountered yet, but as of right now, I've just been really enjoying my time with Iceborne. The last thing I want to say is that the new locales are awesome. Hoarfrost Reach is an amazing environment, and it isn't confusing to navigate like other maps. There's all sorts of little mini biomes in here too, like the hot springs and the wild monkeys that relax in them. Kudos to the level designers for Iceborne. You guys did a great job, and I really love the Hoarfrost Reach. I also know that Rajang was released recently, but I haven't gotten around to fighting him yet. Looking forward to it, sort of, but not really. $40 could buy you a lot of things. You could buy a couple of used or indie games. You could buy yourself a couple of pizzas and a case of beer. You could spend it in other hobbies. Or you could take a vacation to Celiana and kick some monster ass, because this is the best Monster Hunter game that I've played in years. I love it. I highly recommend it. I'll see you guys around. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.